going to be a bit of an awkward start to this, I'll be honest. Not just because I'm sort of stereotypically British, so I sort of always bring that sort of sense of awkwardness to it in that sense. But I'm going to start with like a bit of an admission to you all in that way, which I'm pretty sure, by quite a long way, that I will be the least intelligent person that you hear from today on this stage. Now, there's some truly amazing stories that you've heard. There's some amazing people to still come. And I don't want you to panic. This is not to say that I'm dumb or that you guys have sort of come into the wrong room in that sense. But if you read every school report that I pretty much ever had growing up, it would have said that I was, well-dressed and quite polite in that sense, which is quite surprising given what I do for a job these days in that way. But mostly that I just didn't try hard. Now, this was the case in pretty much everything, all subjects that I had at school but one, and that was sports. Now, from the earliest days that I could run, I was winning races. I remember really vividly, whether it's my first school or my junior school, my high school, I competed in 11 different county sports, which was amazing against much bigger boys than me always in that sense. If I wanted to master a new shot or master a new skill, then I would spend hours and hours and hours practicing this until I mastered it, until I was done in that sense. As it was my fundamental passion, it was my calling in that sense. It never really felt like work. And this is really something that we've taken into building the culture at 11FS, which is the company that I run today. Now, sadly, unfortunately for me, when I was 19, one bad move and one bad timing later, and I tore all of the ligaments in my left knee. It sucked. Like, I went from a normal routine, normal training session to a knee the size of a watermelon in about 90 seconds, which is, if anybody's got any medical background, it's not a good thing, right? So 90 seconds to my dream just being over like that. So at this point, I learned that, coasting through school was probably not the best of ideas in terms of actually how to get ahead in life. And sadly, I knew right there and then I had to get a proper job. This was a career-changing experience overnight. I was understandably distraught at that point. How was I going to get away with this level of coasting in the real world? And spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know me, I didn't. Sadly, it would have been nice, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So my dad took me aside and gave me a stack of newspapers and said, and I'm not going to do a Yorkshire accent, but you can sort of imagine this, a broad Yorkshire accent. I'm not sure how well this tracks in Singapore, but broad Yorkshire accent, okay? He said, son, pick a career in an industry that will still be broken when you come out of schooling. Now, my dad was in oil and gas, and I thought, nepotism, that might be a good idea, so that made the shortlist. And then the other two industries that I looked at with potential was, firstly, computing, because this thing called the internet looked like it might have legs. And then the second one of them was banking and financial services, which seemed to be going through transformation after transformation after transformation without really getting anywhere. You get the idea, right? Thankfully, when I was 5, the same year that I picked up my first basketball, I actually got my first computer as well, which was an Amstrad 1512, a beautiful beige box. I'm sure many of you can remember this. And in my spare time, I developed a bit of a flair for engineering and networking. Now, with these foundations, I got a little bit greedy, and I went into how computing and technology can be applied to the financial services and industry. And at this point, I embarked on a computing degree, and it went okay. It went all right. I didn't, by all means, blow the doors off in that sense, but I sort of brought my sportsman showmanship to quite a sort of collection of quite confused computing professors, which I'm not sure had sort of seen this level of sneaker game or really understood really where I was trying to get to. But sadly, on results day, having come out of the hall, having picked up the results, I learned that I'd really messed up. I'd got an okay grade, I got a 2-1, and I really should be proud of that. But I realized that 100,000 plus people had exactly the same level of qualifications, had exactly the same capability as I had. And as somebody who's always had a real sense of being an individual, this gave me a real problem at that point. Knowing that I was just as good as everybody else was a massive trigger to me. I'd really presumed that my natural ability would just pull me through. But obviously, we all know in the business game, that means absolutely nothing. So right there and then, holding on to those yellow railings that still haunt my dreams today, nightmares really rather than dreams, I guess in that sense, I vowed just to work harder and apply myself more than anybody else in any room that I was ever in. Whether it was doing computing, whether it was doing marketing, anything in that sense. So what's the secret to success? This is fundamentally all I've ever done from that moment to this. And standing in front of you today, that really is the secret to success in my views. So if we do the right things that fundamentally focus us in the right direction, then we will be most likely more likely to succeed. So for me, this goes for anything in life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your work, whether it's your studies. And really this led me to the life-altering realization and really why I'm stood in front of you today, which is we are all just fundamentally what we do every day. Now, the key here is not what you say you do, but fundamentally what you actually do. Now, that means that success is therefore not an act, but a habit. And a habit that anybody can unlock as a superpower, given the right conditions, in my opinion. So while many attribute external factors for their inability to get traction or blaming an issue of failure on somebody else, then in my experience, there really are only two behaviors that actually create the right conditions to succeed. So these behaviors that have allowed me to stand in front of you today and make up for my average level of intelligence to succeed where others have not. So these two behaviors for me are attitude and effort. Now, it seems too obvious to be true, doesn't it? I know there's this sort of a stating the obvious, David, I get this, yeah? But there's a plethora of management consultancy gurus and people telling you some secret diet or productivity hack to make you successful. But unfortunately, there is no 60-second abs for being successful. There is just the right attitude, there is the right effort applied consistently. That is really fundamentally what's needed. Now, your attitude is how you react to the world. When you're faced with the strains and the stresses, then how do you choose to respond to that? Is your mindset fixed, or is it open and able to be positive even when faced with the challenges that the world presents to you? Your effort is simply how much work you put into something. How hard do you work, and how long can you sustain that work in that sense? And through this effort, these learnings that you create, how smart you're able to work to increase your efficiencies and free yourself from repeating small menial tasks that take away your time, that take away your energy. So with the right level of both these things in place and over a sustained period of time, then amazing results will happen and amazing opportunities will present themselves to you. So I guess with these two things understood, then who determines your attitude? That's you, right? Like you do that, which is odd, right? You know, and who determines the level of effort that you put into things as well? That's you guys again, right? It's you. So this isn't your friends or your family, your manager, your parents, or anybody else. You fundamentally control your attitude, and you fundamentally control your effort. And so how you show up and with your attitude and your effort determine how successful that you are, and fundamentally more than that, just how happy you will be in that sense as well. So whether it's you folks today or my son and daughter that I talk to about this stuff all the time, we are fundamentally not passengers, but the drivers of our own lives. And we should take comfort and quite a lot of motivation from this as well. Whether your goal is to smash a test or get a promotion or get that role that you really fundamentally want, it will be determined by your attitude and your effort, whether you come close to achieving it or not. So for me, when times are tough, take these learnings and use them to motivate yourself into actions, and hopefully actions that move you beyond your hopes and your wishes, but behaviors that drive you forwards towards your own personal and professional goals. You fundamentally are just what you choose to do every day, and building the right habits to consistently do the right things with the right attitude, with the right level of effort, will determine whether you're successful doing that or not. I am proof of this, standing in front of you today after all of the mistakes that I've made in my professional and personal life. But for me, to draw on my background, to draw on my sporting career, it's very much like the basic theory of jumping here for all of you, that I bring to you really from my basketball days of old. If you look up, you will always go further. And if you look down, you will always fall short. So my advice to everybody, if you want to make success a habit, make sure that you look up. Because being the ability to put these things into action and make these habits part of your day-to-day success will really determine how far you go. Thank you very much.